Folks, you may have missed it, but there is nearly $8 million that Donald Trump received from foreign governments when he was president. House Oversight Democrats dropped that bombshell and brought the receipts in a report earlier this month. The foreign government spent the money at Trump's hotels and businesses while Donald Trump was in the White House. Now, Congressman Jamie Raskin is demanding that Donald Trump give it back. Trump, of course, insists he did nothing wrong. And Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland joins us now. He is the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, thank you so much for being here with us. You sent a letter to Donald Trump Friday demanding that he return about $7.8 million. Have you gotten a response from the former president yet?
No response yet. And I should point out quickly that that's a fraction of what he got. That represented 2 years, the first 2 years of his presidency. We didn't get the second 2 years because Chairman Comer cut off discovery, at least according to Trump lawyers. They told Mazars they don't have to turn anything else over. So we get 2 years for only 4 of Donald Trump's businesses out of more than 500 businesses, and that was just 20 countries out of 195 countries on Earth. So it gives you a sense of it, but people are coming up to me on the floor saying just $8 million. We thought he was taking a lot more than that. Well, that just scratches the surface.
To be clear, some of the biggest spenders were Saudi Arabia, China. They spent this money at his hotels, his golf clubs. The chairman, as we discussed this when this news first broke, he reminded me of the emoluments. I'm like, yeah, we all became emoluments experts during this time. This is a clear violation.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the heart of the thing. The Constitution says that the president or any other federal official cannot accept a present, an emolument, which means a payment, an office or a title of any kind, whatever. That's in the Constitution, from a king, a prince, a foreign government, without the consent of Congress. Donald Trump came to Congress 0 times to ask to keep this money. And if you go back and look at the history of it, from George Washington to Barack Obama, nobody ever did anything remotely like that. I mean, Abraham Lincoln got these 2 elephant tusks that he loved from the King of Siam during the Civil War. He went to Congress. He said, can we keep these? Congress said, no, turn them over to the Department of Interior, and he promptly turned them over. So, you know, you recall Obama was given the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was told, well, it doesn't violate the text of the emoluments clause because the Nobel Committee is not the Swedish government, but the spirit of it, yeah, and he turned the money over, $1.3 million. John F. Kennedy, Ireland said, we'd like to make you a citizen. We love you so much. And again, they said, doesn't technically violate the text of the emoluments clause, but the spirit certainly. And so he turned it down. So Donald Trump did something nobody had ever done before. He tried to convert the presidency into a money-making enterprise, and he did. And now his sons are out there saying, well, he didn't take his federal salary of $400,000 a year. That's all you're allowed to take. You're not supposed to be on the payroll for Saudi monarchs and Chinese communist bureaucrats. You're supposed to be getting paid by the American people. And they said, well, he returned the profits from the foreign governments. Well, that's not what the Constitution says. It doesn't say you can't keep the profits. It says you can't keep $1 without going to Congress first. So if you think Congress would allow you to keep $7.8 million, come to Congress and we'll decide. But at this point, he's long overdue. Pay the money back.
Well, it's not just his sons who are out there talking about that. He himself was at a Fox News town hall. He was asked about this. This is, of course, before you asked for the money back. Take a listen to what he said, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
I have a hotel and somebody comes in from China. That's a small amount of money. And it sounds like a lot of money. That's a small. But I was doing services for that. I don't get $8 million for doing nothing like Hunter.
He admitted it.
Well, he was told by George W. Bush's ethics advisor, Richard Painter, that he absolutely had to either divest himself from the businesses, what other presidents have done, or put it into a blind trust. But in any event, he couldn't take any money from foreign governments. Former President Trump just said, well, if somebody comes from China, they can stay at the hotel. Of course, somebody from China could stay at the hotel. But the government itself of China, the Communist government of China, cannot be putting money into Donald Trump's pocket any more than the murderous monarch of Saudi Arabia who was another leading spender there. We're talking about millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars going in. And of course, when the administration was over, Mohammed bin Salman gave $2 billion to Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to launch this new business, which his own sovereign national fund advisor said, don't do it. These people don't have experience. And the Crown Prince overruled them. And of course, the whole administration, Trump was saying, tell bin Salman he owes us. We covered his blank. We saved his blank when he ordered for the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. So we show in our report all of the specific things that Donald Trump was doing for these foreign states. In the meantime, they're talking about Hunter Biden, who wasn't even a public official. Donald Trump, you just saw him compare himself to Hunter Biden, who is a private citizen who was doing his thing. It's very clear from the Constitution that the president himself cannot be pocketing money from foreign states and kings and princes.
Yeah, well, he doesn't look at himself that way. He's just, because I want it, I need to get it. But I want to, again, thank and welcome all of you to the Maryland Corner.
We got to do something about this Maryland situation now.
We're just really happy to have you. Congressman, I want to shift gears a little bit real quick around the budget conversation that's happening on the Hill right now. Seems like a deal has been pretty much put in place for consideration with the Senate leadership. The Speaker, Speaker Johnson, has said and appears to be holding his ground on the deal that's been cut. What's your sense of this budget process? How do you feel as we were talking in the last segment about this bifurcated CR process, which has never happened before? How do you think this plays out and what impact it could have in actually getting something done longer term? Well,
Michael, we've seen so much dysfunction and turbulence in the Republican conference in this Congress that I think Speaker Johnson knows he can't allow the government to shut down, which would clearly be on them. So, they've got this bifurcated, staged approach. Look, it's a fundamental responsibility of Congress to keep the government open and going, and it's enormously wasteful to continue to lurch from crisis to crisis. And we're saying that that's got to stop. Now, their majority is down to 2. Kevin McCarthy quit. George Santos was expelled. Another Congressman Johnson is resigning. I think they're going to be down to 2. I believe the Democrats are going to win our seat back in New York's 3rd congressional district. So they've got a very precarious governing margin because of their own chaos and instability there. And they should make sure that we're actually going to have a budget and just commit to that. And then we can talk about doing some other things. I mean, the economy is going great under President Biden. We've added 14 million jobs. It's been 4% inflation or less for 23 months now. And so why do they want to try to wreck the economy? I don't get it.
Yeah.